A territorial expansion is like a buff in a video game. When sorcerers create their own territories, they alter the surrounding area by creating an environment to their liking. The technique that has been granted in the territory will hit your opponent for sure. For sure? For sure! Meaning that attacks will always hit while an opponent is in your territory. As mentioned before, it is like a buff in a video game. Whoever creates a territory has an advantage in combat. There are also environmental factors to each territory as well. For example, Jogo's territory is a volcano, so it will be very hot for whoever is going against him. Now, let's say he makes his territory denser. If I neutralize your infinity in a denser territory, my magic will hit you too, right? Yeah, it'll hit. He can neutralize your defense and then possibly melt you with his territory. But how can you survive if your opponent uses their territory? You can gamble and block an attack with sorcery, you can escape the territory, or you can expand your own territory. The most effective measure against a territory is also expanding your own territory. When a territory is simultaneously expanded, a more polished sorcery will control that place, meaning that you can create a territory of your own to counter your opponent's territory. Although those are the basics to territorial expansion, territories all work differently. As stated before, Jogo's territory is a volcano known as Iron Coffin Mountain, and while inside the territory, it will inflict burn damage or even melt its opponents. I do like the territories because it all revolves around the user. The territories all come from inside the user, from their ideas. It's as simple as Jogo being a volcano curse. It's really only natural for Jogo's territory to be the inside of a volcano. Another example of a natural idea developing a territory would be Sukuna. Sukuna's abilities are a mystery, but while inside of Yuji's body, Sukuna seems to have a liking for decapitating and slashing. Sukuna's territory, Demonic Ferritory, slices its opponent to pieces, which ties into how Sukuna fights while in Yuji's body.
You may be a cursed spirit, but is that arm valuable to you?
I would like to believe that Sukuna is capable of more, but maybe Yuji's body is limiting his sorcery to slashing. Mahito's territory was inspired by his idea of death. Territories are born from natural ideas. Mahayana Prison is a territory where the opponent becomes Mahito's plaything. Mahayana Prison is the perfect territory for Mahito. It ties into his sadistic nature. Mahito bends the soul, changing its shape, which will inevitably alter the body. And when you are inside his territory, he can use his idle mutation technique and mutate you without even touching you. You're essentially a sculpture, and he's the artist. You're in the palm of Mahito's hand, and he's all in control of the entire situation by activating his territory. Once inside Mahito's territory, you are nothing more than his toy, waiting to get bent, molded, disfigured, mutated into whatever Mahito wants you to be. Megumi's incomplete territory, Chimera Shadow Garden, unleashes all of his shadows as an attack, and this territory comes from the idea of not holding back. Megumi thinks about going all out, so it's not surprising how that idea would bring out every single one of his shadows in one place. The idea that Megumi pictured in his head, a future version of himself who has surpassed their limits. By picturing that idea, he brought it into reality and actually became that future version of himself that he was thinking about. Through Megumi's creative process, we see how the territories develop. Unfortunately, the only thing we see him do is stop the opponent with frogs. But the room for creativity is endless because Megumi has a lot of different shadows, such as birds, elephants, dogs, and snakes. And that's just to name a few. Megumi's territory has potential. Ideas are the root of territories. Megumi is thinking a lot more freely, and the shadows allow him to move the way he wants to. When Megumi's brain gets impaled, he thinks while using shadow techniques. So why not embody that technique? Why fight with shadows when you can become a shadow? I can't stress enough how much territories derive from the user's ideas and creativity. Once Megumi gets his full territory, he will be a monster. And finally, Satoru's immeasurable void territory. This territory fills the mind of whoever is in it with never-ending information, meaning that the information is infinite. While processing infinite information, Satoru's opponents are essentially put into a loop where they can't do anything. A loop is infinite, just like the amount of information that comes from this territory. Once someone is in Satoru's territory, they literally cannot do anything because there's too much information coming to their head and they were essentially stuck. And that's it for all the territories that have been shown in the manga so far. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and be sure to look forward to more Jujutsu Kaisen content on this channel.